Hi, friends. I'm Rayna. Joining us in conversation, author, transitional life coach, equine experiential learning practitioner, Kathy Moffatt. Who is Kathy Moffatt?
Oh my. Wow. Well, let's see. I'm a mom. I'm a grandmom. I'm a ex-corporate executive. I'm a horse person. That's my passion is horses. I'm an equine experiential learning coach. I'm an amateur sourdough bread baker. Chief cook and bottle washer at the farm. That's about it. Well, there's probably more. Oh, yes, gardener. I forgot gardener. Yes,
You
I'm a
gardener, and
gardener.
you've got some authoring in there as well.
That's right. Yes, I'm writing a book. So yes, I'm a writer as well. So yeah,
So you've got
that's describes me.
wonderful. How does all of that play into who you are right now?
I think right now I'm at the point in my life where I have had a lot of really interesting, diverse world experience that has allowed me to figure out really who I am and what I want to do moving forward in my life. So my identity has really blossomed, probably started blossoming in my 50s, where I just realized that all of these life experiences have come to play. And I've had several aha moments. It's like, oh, wow, this is who you really are. So yeah, I guess that's how I would answer that question. I don't want to make it any more complicated than that.
No, you've had a long journey. And so where are you at this moment?
So at this moment, I really feel I am living my purpose. And I feel it in my body and I feel it in my soul. I'm doing work that is meaningful and allows me to serve others. And I think in my life, that's always what I was meant to do. But as we all do with life, we get distracted along the way. But right now, that's where I am. And sometimes I think, how did it take getting to 60 to figure that out? But I think it might be a divine plan that you go through all these other things and then you arrive. And so, I mean, honestly, and it may sound trite, I feel like I've arrived in real purposeful meaning in my life.
Where have you arrived?
I have arrived where I feel I'm authentically myself. I feel that my human gifts of helping people heal through my past life experience of allowing me to have empathy have come into play. And it seems like everything is very clear. And that's how I feel at this moment, that there's a clarity of knowing what it is that I need to do. And I think I've always been destined to do this. I think it sounds kind of hokey or woo-woo, but I mean, it's the truth and it's my truth.
Hokey and woo-woo is what we do.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Yeah,
So
for sure.
what were out of your journey, what were some pinnacle steps that brought you clarity?
Well, I think there were some events that happened in my life that caused me to wake up a little bit. My mother passed away about 11 years ago, relatively quickly, and it was quite shocking. And then I realized, being the oldest child and the only girl or woman, I became the matriarch of the family. Didn't really want to be. So I took on that role and I started to change my perspective, I think, at that time. And then I've had other things happen to me in my life too that have caused me to go through some trauma and then having to overcome that. So, I mean, one of the pinnacle things in my life that, is needs to be said about my life story is that I have 2 adopted children and both of them have substance abuse problems. And one of them is actually a meth addict and he's homeless. Well, actually right now, I think he probably does have some housing, but he's had the past 10 years have been awful with managing that. And as it started, I dealt with that in not necessarily healthy ways. It was probably being a bit codependent and enabling. But through that journey, I was able to discover myself. And there were a couple of events that happened that caused me to figure out where I needed to be and how I needed to be in my lane, as opposed to constantly enabling that behavior. One of them was the death of a horse back in 2016, which crushed me. And it made me realize that I needed some help to deal with a lot of these emotions. Things kind of came crashing in. And so I think there was a pinnacle that year. The horse died. My son became incarcerated, and I was struggling. And I finally realized that, I needed some help. So I went to counseling. And that, I think it was taking that step to go to counseling to help me deal with those emotions. I think that was the step that caused me to dig myself out of the hole. That what I call, and as I suggested before, I'm writing a book about it, I call it my mother's hell, my 10 years of mother's hell. But I had to climb out of that hole because I was self-medicating myself with a lot of alcohol, and that had to stop as well. So I think the pinnacle was the counselor. And then there were a lot of crumbs that started to fall. And then I started to follow the crumbs. And as I followed one crumb, it led to another and another. And then my path opened up to me through that. And I discovered horses had always been there for me, but I discovered the true, deep, spiritual and energetic healing intuitively, never knowing why. I don't understand. I just always would do it. There's a reason for that. And that pinnacle was when a friend of mine had invited me to watch her work with a young, troubled young man, a teenager who was in the system, living in a group home, who had terrible abuse and was undergoing work with my friend through equine assisted learning. And she invited me to come and watch this. And I was curious about it. And I thought, following my curiosity was taking me down a different path. And I remember walking into the stable to meet her. And there was this young man there and this beautiful old horse. And I watched her quietly facilitate the interaction with this boy and the horse. And I knew in my body that this was what I was meant to do. I just knew it. And it was quite transformative, actually, that moment. So I would say a few little things happened along the way, and then that was a pivot, because when that happened, and that was during the early parts of the pandemic, when that happened, I made a lot of changes. And those changes have brought me to where, I am right now.
What are some of those changes that you've made?
Well, I quit my job.
Okay, that's a really, really big change. So that was a transition point as well.
That's right. Yeah, I quit my job just at the beginning of the pandemic. Not so much because of the pandemic, but it had a lot more to do with I just wasn't feeling good working in that. I was working in science and technology. I was in the corporate world, and it just didn't resonate with me anymore. I just didn't relate to it. And I just decided to quit. And so I did, with no real plan at that point. So I quit my job. And actually a year previous to that, I quit drinking. I quit drinking for a complete year to kind of reset myself. So that kind of set me up into a different mindset. So the job being quitting, stopping abusing alcohol helped. And then it was like, oh my God, okay, now what? I've had this very organized, high-flying corporate life. I have all this time. What do I do with this time? And then I just continued following the crumbs. Yeah.
Okay. So from a timeline perspective, 2016 is when you lost the horse, and that had a real impact on you. Mm-hmm. When did your transition out of the corporate world come to fruition?
That was in 2020. Yeah. 2020? That was in February of 2020.
So there was a 4-year gap between the loss of the horse and the transition out of corporate. The year prior, so 2019, is when you removed alcohol from your self-soothing modalities.
Right.
When did you go and visit the friend that was in the EAL programs and facilitating this young man?
Yeah, so that would have been in mid 2020. Probably about 6 months. So so the order of that would have been I quit the job. Then I went and explored that. I'd been communicating with her before, but I'd explored that after I'd quit. I was already not working. Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to jump ahead a couple of years. Where are you at right now?
So where I'm at right now is I am running an equine facilitated learning and coaching business at my stable with my beautiful herd of horses. I graduated from a program in that last June. And I launched that business right away. And right now, that is what I'm doing. I mean, primarily what I'm doing, other than obviously all of the looking after the horses, et cetera, that you have to do around a stable. But that is my prime focus, is working on that.
All right. So tell us about where you call home. Rideau Stables and Wellness Center?
That's right.
Okay. What is that?
Okay. So Rideau Stables is the name of the stable part. So, and that started first. I've always had the stable, and it's, as far as I can remember, I've always named it that because we live on the Rideau River and it's windy. So that's how it got the name. And I'd had a small boarding business for adult boarding business at the stable, actually through when I was working. For many years when I was working, it was just a side gig. I'd always had that. So that was the Rideau Stables part. So that's just basically, I have a few adult boarders, and I manage the stable like you would manage a normal equine boarding stable.
I just want to clarify, what do you mean by adult boarders? For those who have never been in a horse stable, to me, I visualize people staying in your stable. As an adult, I would stay in your stable. So what's an adult boarding facility to you?
Okay, so it's a boarding facility where the people that own the horses are adults. And to be very honest, I consider an adult usually somebody over 40 in the horse business. and they're all women. So I don't discriminate against men. I love men, but my stable business is really geared towards women, and women that are in early middle age is my demographic, and all my boarders fit within that. So that's what the adult component comes in. Of course, the horses, they're adults too, I suppose. I don't know. That's not really the vernacular you use for horses, but yeah, so that's what it is. And it differentiates itself from other boarding facilities that offer boarding and lessons and things for kids. And I didn't want my place to be that. I wanted it to be a quiet oasis for women to come and enjoy the beauty of nature we have here, enjoy their horses without being encumbered by the energy of kids. And like I love men, I love kids too, but that was not the environment that I was curating. And so that led itself, because I've already curated that environment and there is a soft, beautiful energy about the place, the wellness component came in naturally. When I was going through this crawling out of the hole and had to find other things to do other than drink, I took up yoga, and then I took up meditation, and then I discovered Reiki, and I was finding all of these partly other things to do with my time, but things also to soothe my soul that were not substance-based. And it made me well. It really did. They're actually, all of those things I mentioned are a big part of my life now. And that led it into, well, why don't I make the facility about that too? Why don't I have a wellness component in the facility? So the wellness component came in actually during COVID. I have a beautiful space that I wasn't sure what to do with. And I thought, oh, wouldn't that make a nice yoga studio? And the ladies that come here, wouldn't they enjoy yoga? So I met a yoga instructor just off the cuff. And I said, hey, you want to come and teach yoga at my stable? And that was the first thing. That was the first wellness thing that happened. And so she came and we started offering yoga classes mostly to the women that board the horses here, but people in the community started to find out, and it became a bit of a going thing. So the yoga, it was really the big wellness component. And that's when I changed the name. And then I thought about, well, there's a lot of other things you could do in a wellness practice here, because we're in this beautiful natural environment along the river. We have forests, 210 acres to wander on. Wellness comes from all different places, just spending time in nature. And so I thought, I want to expand this into something that I can share with other people. With obviously the horses are central, but outside of that too. So it's morphed into, offering of yoga, a little bit of Reiki, some forest bathing. And it just evolved organically because of my own healing. Those things help me heal. And now I offer it to others to help them, with their healing or overall wellness, or maybe just a place you want to chill and hang out, right? In a quiet space where you're unencumbered by the busyness of life. So there wasn't a divine, well, maybe there was a divine plan, but there wasn't a succinct business plan to do that. It just rather happened. That's the way it came about.
How do the horses play into all the different components that you've brought onto the property? The yoga, the Reiki, the forest bathing. Where does their energy complement what you're offering?
Well, I think the horses are the central energy to the place, like the nature as well. So they hold space, energetic space for all the things around them, whether it be people or, even other energetic beings that are around. They hold the space and they create this beautiful, it's almost like a feeling of coziness around the place. Like people comment when they come up here, wow, this place feels so calming. And I believe it's not just the horses, but it is primarily the horses, and then our relationship, with the horses. And then horses, because they communicate with their bodies and through nonverbal types of communication, that's all energy. So them being around allows us to learn as well how to be attuned with our own energy. And if we're attuned with our own energy when we're around a horse, so we can get into a space where we can clear our mind. And, my mind is clear. Well, maybe I'll go meditate, or maybe I'll practice some yoga, or, wow, maybe I'll have a Reiki session. It's all energy. It's all tied together. And it's not something I necessarily planned on, but it's all been drawn in organically. And the horses are really the magnet to it. I really believe that.
What do you find when you spend time with horses? What shifts in your body, your energy when you are in the company of a horse?
Wow. There's so much to say about that. When I'm in the company of a horse, I feel this strong connection. They are reaching out for the connection. And if I accept that, like somebody coming to hi, how are you? Reach out their hand. I accept that connection. And as soon as I do that, I immediately feel them, and I feel them in my body. Like I feel, usually, it's in my heart or in my gut, this sense of ease and calmness. And the more time I spend with them, the more I'm in my body and I feel grounded. I'm not so much in my head, because the connection is so beautiful, right? It's just it's like they're holding space for me in like a big bubble. It's quite lovely. And I've always felt that around them. Even as a young person, I always, I was upset. I go hang out with horses, and they always seem to, well, they sense what's going on with you. So, and they don't judge, right? So if I've had a crappy day and I just feel like, and I'm not grounded, and I'll just go out and hang out in the field and just sit there, and invariably a horse will come up, and, you'll feel their energy. I mean, there's science behind it. It's an electromagnetic field that they produce in their heart that you feel. And then you immediately have this feeling of breathing with them and your heart beating with them. And then you're grounded and you calm down and you get out of your head. And it's absolutely a fabulous experience. They are just amazing at it. And, and if you're bounce back into your head and, they flick at you and it's like, oh, okay, there goes my monkey brain. And they tell you, and they don't lie. Right. So, they don't like that buzzy crap going on in your head. And if you're like that, they'll tell you. And then it honestly, like not verbally, but with their body or their ways of communicating with you, it's, a flick of a tail, a pin of an ear, a nudge. And it's like, okay, yeah. And so they don't lie either. They don't judge and they don't lie. They're like the perfect therapist.
Why are they perfect therapists? Why are the horses perfect therapists?
Well, for me, and I've gone to some therapy and it was helpful, but sometimes it's hard to talk about what's happened to you, right? And it can be triggering. So I've had a lot of experiences over the years, particularly with my youngest son, which were pretty horrific. And talking about it, sometimes it's hard. And although I need to get it out of me, it's hard I get triggered and then I have a meltdown. So with the horses, it's not about talking. It's about feeling. And it's about them understanding the emotions that are in you or feeling them. And you feel that they feel them. And you can talk to them and I verbally do. I will verbally say things to a horse about how I'm feeling without triggering the emotion. And I feel it's a body experience. It's not a talk therapy thing. And for me, that is very helpful to be able to be able to do that. And sometimes I just think we talk too much. I mean, we spend so much time, and when you're talking, you're in your head, right? So I feel that it's just being, feeling the emotion, and you can feel things come up and release. And they hold the space for that without having to say anything to you. They just stand there and hold space, and they sometimes will lower their head and their eyes softens, or they blow out and they relax, and you feel that. It's like a big warm hug. And they're providing empathy without having to verbalize it, right? So for me, I found it very helpful. I mean, I don't know where I would be in a lot of ways without the horses. I mean, I had some pretty horrible trauma, sitting in courtrooms and trials and things like that, as a mom wondering, oh God, what kind of a mother am I that my son has done these horrible things? And your mind chomps away at that stuff, and it's not helpful. But if you can go out and just energetically connect with another sentient being, it feels like a big release, and your body relaxes, and then you feel better. You just do.
Can you share with us a few of the aha moments that you've had when you've been with the horses, like the revelation of, oh, I never would have figured that out had I not been with the horse energy?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff like that. I think probably the most profound thing that happened probably about a year and a half ago. I was exploring having my chart done. I've never really followed astrology that much. It's interesting, but it's interesting. And lately I follow anything I'm interested in. So I'm curious about things. So decided to have my chart done. And one of the problems with that is you have to give the astrologer your date and time of birth. And I didn't know my time of birth. And my mother has passed away, and I asked my father, and he didn't know. Well, this was 1961, so, and he was a military guy. He probably wasn't in the room back then, even though
or even in the country.
Or he might not have, he might not have been in the country. And men back then, they just didn't do that. They weren't there. But I was desperate to find out my time of birth. But I didn't know. And the astrologer said, well, she could find it out another way through going through Akashic records, which at that time I didn't know much about that either. But anyway, so, and I won't get into that, but she figured
that's for another conversation.
That's right. That's right. So, but she figured she could figure it out. And I was walking out to my horses, and I remember this so succinctly. It was in the morning. I was walking out to the back gate, and I have these two beautiful draft cross horses, Lily and Quinn. And I don't even know why I was going there. I can't remember why, but I was quizzical about things, and I was thinking about this. And I go out and I'm sitting on a rock. There's this huge rock we're in the Canadian Shield where I am. So there's this big rock there. And it's kind of my sitting rock. So I go sit on the rock, and then my mare, Lily, comes in, and I'm just thinking about this. And then all of a sudden, like, I feel this relaxation, and all of a sudden the number 803 appears in my mind, 803. And it was a time, 803.
803.
803. And I thought, oh, is that when I was born? And then I remembered, or felt, or I mean, maybe I remembered, but I remember thinking, or maybe I knew. I remember my mom. I could hear my mom saying, "You were born at a respectable time of the day," and we're morning people, so I figured it had to be 8:03 in the morning, right? So I called the astrologer back, and this was a couple of days after we chatted, and I called her back, and she had said to me, I said, "I have it," and she says, "Is it 8:03 in the morning?" No word of a lie. No word of a lie. Really? Yes.
Wow.
Wow. And she went in through these. She's quite psychic, I would assume so. And she did her thing, and she had that. And then I thought, well, this could be a bunch of bullshit, really. So my sign, because I have a science background. So then my scientific mind goes, but my horse was kind of, and verify. Like when I was sitting there at 8:03, of course, and she's licking and chewing 8:03, and then I had the chart done, and holy cow, like the stuff she told me she couldn't possibly know. And it's based on, when you're born, and the time you're born is important, because that's when you become alive, is when you're actually born. So, and that was more the horse giving me some intuition, or me being in touch with my intuition, because I was kind of pondering an energetically thing. It wasn't so much a healing thing. It was more, I share that just because it's quite profound. And I know it had something to do with me being energetically attached to the horse. And it still kind of blows my mind. It's kind of a woo-woo thing. And there've been many other times where I've gone out and I think of a couple of times where I've gone out and I've just been tired, right? And I just got to get over, or I got to get over a problem. And so then what I tend to do is, because I practice a lot of yoga, I practice a lot of different breathing techniques. And so I was doing a specific breathing technique, and I'm standing out in a field with one of my horses. I think it was Quinn at that time. And I'm breathing with him, and my breath is getting slower and slower, and I'm getting more calm and more calm. And then he just lies down and goes to sleep. And it's like, oh, I think I should take some rest. I'm tired. I need rest. And he just rested. So
he literally just laid down on the ground.
He lay down on the ground and went to sleep. Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't his bedtime. Like, it's not time for him to tuck in. This is directly in relation to you.
Right. I mean, why would he do that otherwise? And usually horses, when you go out there to be with them, they don't typically lie down and go to sleep. Like, I mean, they lie down on their own, but not usually in your presence. It's actually happened to me a couple of times where I've been practicing some breathing or meditation, and then the horses lie down and go to sleep. So, and touching them and breathing with them, if you're trying to sort a problem out, sometimes you get clearer, because your body gets clear. And I've watched other people, interestingly enough, I watch other people experiencing things considerably more profound than to myself, because I'm able to step outside and look at things that happen and go, oh, wow, isn't that amazing what that horse is doing with this individual, right? So I actually love those. I mean, as much as I love spending time with the horses, I'm blessed that I'm with them every day, right? So I can hang out if I'm, for whatever reason. And but when people come here and spend time with the horses, I just love watching the connection with other people and the horses. It's amazing. It's profound all the time. It's always profound. Never ceases to surprise. It shouldn't be surprising. It's not surprising anymore, but Yeah, it's quite amazing how attuned they are to people. Yeah.
So these are experiences that happen on your property with the horses.
Mm.
Does that energetic connection continue once someone has left the property or once you're no longer in direct connection with the horses?
Um, yeah, it does. I always feel connected. Like there is this feeling like I'm really bound to them now. So there's this feeling of ease even when I'm away from them. Like I could be off running errands and I don't know, some silly thought comes into my head and then I think about, oh, what would the horse do? And then it's like, oh, I'm able to have a touchstone away from the horses in my body. I can get myself into that place sometimes too if I'm stressed out or something. I can feel that feeling that I get within their presence because I know what that feels like in my body. It's almost like I can move into it energetically. Yeah.
And so that's from a perspective of they're your horses, you're connected with them, but putting your facilitator hat on,
Mm-hmm.
what do you notice when you have clients that come up or people who join you on the farm? What do you notice when they are leaving the property? Do they share with you things that have happened to them after they've left with their connection still being maintained with the horses?
Yeah, I mean, almost without fail, I'll get a message from a client after they've left about the experience. I mean, sometimes it's a simple thank you. I had an amazing experience today. Sometimes it's, wow, can I come back again? I want to unpack that a little bit more. And I've had people write me lovely little notes about how they feel. I had one client who, this has just recently came to me and she's been messaging me weekly. It's kind of interesting. She says, I'm still processing what happened with me and the horse. And in her case, because I don't ask if people are willing or want to tell me, you know, what has transpired with them and the horse. I will hold space for them and listen, but sometimes people don't. And she didn't really tell me, but she kept messaging me saying, I'm still processing the time I spent with you. I can, and your horses, I can hardly wait to come back. So that tells me something. Yeah, for sure.
Now you've created this wellness retreat center. You've got your
Mm-hmm.
horses, your herd of horses that are your partners in this project.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have rolling out this summer that's incorporating all these different modalities of energetic healing and self-knowledge and coming into the space of being authentic within ourselves?
Right. Yeah. So I've got a retreat coming up, the 13th and 14th of May. It's a 2-day retreat, and it's all based around getting in tune with your body and with your energy and getting, out of your heads. That's the idea of the retreat. I see so many people struggling with this in life today. We lead busy lives. We're plugged into social media all the time and we buzz around and we're just so out of touch with ourselves. So that was the idea for it. And so I've assembled, so for the weekend, I've assembled some beautiful energy healers and facilitators that are going to do different types of sessions with people over the weekend. So the horses will be the focal point because they are the energetic connection to the place. We will be doing some guided forest bathing or meditative forest walking. I have a woman that does that kind of thing. The clients will go out on, or participants will go out on tour of the forest, and we'll get into a meditative practice out in the woods with the trees. That'll be part of the weekend. I have 2 Reiki practitioners coming in to give each of the clients, an individual Reiki session, which is beautiful for your own self-healing, and things come up, through Reiki. So that helps people unblock things within their bodies, which also helps with being able to go out with the horses. If you can unblock things, then you'll have a different kind of experience with the horses. And we're going to have yoga at the retreat as well. So on the Saturday evening, we're going to have a yoga nidra, which is a It's called the yoga of sleep, which will be a nice way to process the first day and relax into the evening. And then I have a local artist. She's a ceramic and multimedia artist who is going to help people process, what things have come up through a creative expression. So, and it'll be based around nature. So the plan is to have people gather some materials out on their forest bathing walk that they'll incorporate into the art workshop, and then they'll be able to express themselves creatively at the end. This will be at the very end of the workshop. It's, I think, a way of processing everything together in a way that, the emotions, sometimes doing things creatively helps you get your emotions and your thoughts, or just your authenticity down, down into some kind of a form. So that's the plan. And I'm hoping that it will allow women to, shed off what does not serve them and move into their own, authenticity through all of these different kinds of energetic practices. And I think certain things will resonate with certain people. That's why we've curated it this way. So we've got these combination of different, I guess I would call them all energy workers, creative energy people, like Reiki, body energy people, and then yoga, which is mindfulness and breathing, and all of that will come together. And then, of course, the horses will be central to it all. So we will be doing the participants will be doing both group activities with the horses as well as one-on-one activities. And yeah, that's the plan for the weekend.
Who is the weekend geared to?
I would say the weekend would be geared to women that are a little bit stuck. Women that
What do you mean by stuck?
So I would say that maybe they were trying to transition to something. So maybe they're transitioning to a new job. Maybe they're become empty nesters and, oh my God, what do I do with my time? How do I make myself feel good? Maybe they're moms that just want to have who are lost in motherhood and don't know who they are anymore. Who am I? I'm just someone's mom. And so maybe, a mom that wants to get away for a couple of days and find herself. So women primarily, women that have something that they need to, and I call it shedding. And this time of the year, because we're into spring now, it's time to shed anyway. We're shedding off winter. We're moving into the growth of spring. So there are always things that we can shed. So yeah, women, I would think that probably women that are looking and searching, and that could be anybody. I tend to have most of my women clients, I would say, are probably, between, late 30s up to 70. They're in there, not really young. Women that have got some experiences and some things they need to shed, right? So that's who it's geared to.
And what does the accommodation, the food, what's the plan for that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, so during the day, so the first day, the Saturday, snacks and lunch will be at the stable. I have a lovely lounge, and we'll provide the food there, and it'll be based on what people's dietary requirements are. We're prepared to handle anything. The caterers can manage vegan, vegetarian, any gluten, lactose, any of those issues. So there will be a questionnaire going out to people that register about that. So that will
there be
and
snacks?
There'll be snacks. There'll be lots of snacks. Yeah. There's always snacks, healthy snacks, and you got to have a bit of chocolate. You get a bunch of women together, you need some chocolate. So yeah, there'll be snacks all day. No one will be hungry. And then on the Saturday after we're done, we'll be done about 4:30. People will depart for the Heritage Stone House, which is about a 5-minute drive from the stable. If people require transportation to that, we will bring them over there. And it is a beautifully renovated century stone home sitting on the Rideau River. They just opened last year as an Airbnb. I've rented the whole house, and there is sleeping accommodations for 8 people. So the plan would be at the end of the first day, the women would go there, have a little bit of an R&R, get to know each other a little bit. And then we have a dinner coming in that evening, probably an early evening dinner, because after dinner, And again, with the dinner, it'll accommodate all the food requirements. And then after dinner, we're going to have a yoga nidra session, which will be the wind down for that evening. Then the next morning, from a food point of view, food will be brought in, catered into the Heritage Stonehouse, so they will have breakfast there in the morning, and probably continental breakfast, and then transport back to the stable, where we will start the Sunday morning with yoga as well, but this time more of a hatha yoga, a flow class to energize themselves, for the day. And then food and snacks will be provided all day on the Sunday.
What are you hoping that the participants are able to take away at the end of this workshop?
I'm hoping they'll be able to take away that they are in control of their own lives. They can make decisions about their lives and shed things that don't serve them. It's up to them to do that. No one else will do it for them. And I'm hoping that the weekend will give women some tools and some potential techniques to allow them to do that. I think women in our society, and I know this because I was one of these high-flying corporate women, we try and do everything, right? And society expects us to do everything. They expect us to be good mothers or be a mother at all, right? There is attachment to that. So ideally, you need to be a mother. You need to get married. You need to have a clean house. You've got to work. I mean, we're now, we're emancipated. So we're free women. We work. And, we should be great cooks, and we got to be able to garden and run all the errands and plan the kids' activities. And we get caught up in all the details and details and details of life, and we lose ourselves. I think women, and I can't really comment about men, it's different for men, and I can only speak from my perspective, but I think women, because we tend to be the caregivers, and we tend to think we can multitask, we do it. And then we lose ourselves. And I know what that feels like. I know just how rejuvenating it is to allow yourself to shed some of that crap. And I'm hoping that we can give women some of those tools to do that. And then, maybe discover new things, right? Maybe you've never done a yoga class and you'll be able to experience yoga. Or you've never had a Reiki session. So being open to new things in a safe and, safe, and I would call it a safe and sacred space, right? We will keep a container of a sacred space around the entire weekend around all of these women, so they can truly be themselves. And hopefully, at the end of the 2 days, they will have, even if it's one aha, to me, that's a real win. And that's what I want to do and want to curate for these ladies.
And such great energy bringing the energy healers together along with the participants. They're meeting people who are on the same wavelength, who are on that same vibration that they may not have been able to connect with otherwise.
Well, that's right. I mean, that's the other added beauty of it is and I've done workshops before, and one of the big powers is getting like-minded women all together, because then they have a camaraderie amongst each other and develop friendships and lean on each other. And that in itself, it's powerful. It really is. And there's something about the energy of getting a bunch of women together where they feel safe and are able to be vulnerable and supported by other women. It's just beautiful. I love just helping and curating that experience for women. It's really transformative.
Now, from your journey from when you started on this planet to where you are now, what are 3 things that you could or would like to say to young Kathy about your experience with the horses, the Reiki, the yoga, the meditation? You also journal every morning. That's one of the things that keeps you grounded.
Right.
What would you share with Kathy, the previous Kathy, the young girl, to say, if you knew this then, where would you be now?
That's an interesting question. Well, I think I would tell her, first of all, It doesn't matter what you look like. Number one, thinking about a maturity thing, don't worry about that. Doesn't matter. The first thing. Learn to say no. Learn to say no to things that don't resonate with you. 2 little letters in the alphabet. We need to use that more. So say no to things. Don't go and do things that just because you feel you have to or are obligated to you, say no. And nurture and look after your body. It's the vessel that carries this beautiful soul within you. You need to look after it so it'll carry you through life, and just pay attention to that, look after it, look after your body. And that can mean physically, emotionally, and spiritually, in all those different ways. Look after your body. Practice some self-care. Don't let your self-care go.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, your journey on this planet we call Earth, and through this journey of life. Anything you'd like to leave us with before we sign off on our great conversation?
I can't really think of anything. I feel like I need to say something profound, and now the words escape me. being a writer, I should be a bit of a wordsmith, but to leave with you, I would, a song's popped into my head. It may sound corny, but let it go. The song from that silly kids movie. Just let it go. At the end of things, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, let it go. And you know what? Actually, as I'm saying, I think be your authentic self. Be who you are. Don't pretend to be something you're not. Be you.
Beautiful. Kathy, thank you so much for inviting us into your living room and sharing a great conversation with us.
Right. Thank you so much, Rayna. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
From my heart to yours.
Yes.
If you'd like some more information about the work that Kathy offers, either transformational coaching or equine experiential learning, the link to connect with Kathy will be in the description right below. Please make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you know when we have posted more great conversations. And I look forward to you joining us next time when we are in conversation with